Today's video is requested by my husband. I'm still like so happy I get to say that. A little background about him. He tends to get really tight in his QL, his quadratus lumborum, Q animation somewhere. But he's also tight like everywhere. He's tight in the hip flexors, in the abdomen, in the inner thighs, which ends up pulling on all sorts of things and ends up causing all sorts of pain. So he has pain in the knees, he gets pain in the lower back, and this tightness tends to pull on certain structures so that they twist and they turn and things are out of alignment, maybe more so on one side than the other side. So then there's asymmetry, and asymmetry can cause a lot of pain and eventually can lead to injury. So we're not going to go into all the things that are going on in his body because that might not translate to your body and that just wouldn't be responsible. But what I will do is say that this class is going to be pretty good and pretty generally good for anybody who spends long hours sitting or standing, has a tech-based or desk-based job, for anyone who lifts heavy but doesn't stretch enough and has a bit of limited mobility or tightness in their body. This is also pretty good, generally good, for any yoga teacher who wants to have a class or a sequence to take their clients through, whether it's a private client who again has any of those attributes in their daily life. So if that sounds like you, then awesome. Save this class, add it to your playlist, practice it regularly, like once or even twice a week. I broke it up into 2 segments, so choose maybe even 4 times a week if you are breaking it up to you. And if you do like it, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, show the love, and share it with all your friends and family who maybe need it as well. With that being said, we're not going to need much, and if you're somebody who likes to do this in the gym, great news. This is designed for you to supplement your workout, your lifting, your strengthening at the gym. You can have a bench nearby. I don't have a fitness bench in my very aesthetic space, so I do have an ottoman that will pretty much serve as a bench, and I always love my props, so I do recommend having 2 blocks or at least being near a wall for additional support. All of that being said, let's get ourselves situated and I'll meet you on the mat. And we'll get started by lying on our backs. Hug your knees into your chest and just take a moment to check in, feeling for the connection points of your back to the floor. Noticing how that tailbone's relation is to the floor. Is it lifted high or is it grounded down? Eventually making its way to feel longer so that you feel it fully connected to the floor. Start to open your knees, closed and open. And as you do so, you'll feel slight arching and curling at your tailbone. Very light undulation and starting to warm up your hips and warm up your core. Don't forget to breathe and take your circles in the opposite direction. So closing your knees, and I really find that it helps to take your fingertips to your knees so that you also engage your shoulders a little bit. After a few rounds, step your left foot down and go ahead and hug your right knee in, starting to flex your foot up to the ceiling. Interlock the fingers behind the knee, plug the hamstring down. So we're grounding everything down, tailbone is grounded, hips are down. You can start to kick through the ball of your feet. Bend in the knee is totally fine here. You should already feel that stretch. And then we'll make it dynamic by re-bending the knee. So inhale, adding the breath, straighten the leg. And exhale to plug the knee closer. Inhale. Exhaling for 2. Breathing in. Exhale for 3. Let's give it 2 more. Inhaling for 4, dynamic stretching to warm up the hamstring. Exhale, bend. Last one, inhale and exhale to bend. Cross right ankle on top of your left thigh for a figure 4 pigeon. And if you'd like to intensify, bend your left knee into your chest, interlock the fingers around that thigh, and then again, notice that tailbone. Plug your tailbone down As though you had two tailbones, plug your left tailbone down and feel outer hip stretch. If that's fine, you can think about engaging your right knee away from your chest as you pull in. So it's a very self-active stretch. Press your inner thigh wide. And come on back. Interlock the hands behind your right hamstring again. This time kick it all the way up and hold it up there. We're going to point the toes and engage your quads like crazy. At the same time, plug your tailbone down. And if you'd like, you can start to straighten and extend that bottom leg down too. Really active here. We're strengthening that top hip flexor to pull your leg towards you. You should feel a little bit of activity in the lower abs. Let's crank it up a notch. Lift your shoulders off the floor. So again, if this is just where you are with your hamstring flexibility, totally fine. Breathing for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lie back, kick it to come on up and straighten the leg. Holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tap it down, 1. Lie back down with control. Hug your right knee into your chest. And we'll take a nice gentle twist, leg across the body and cactus your right arm. So my goal here is not to actually take my knee all the way down, but to take my right shoulder head down. So I really want to twist from above the rib cage. You can even support that bottom knee by using your left hand as a bridge. And then think about pushing into your left elbow more to draw that right shoulder head down. Breathe. And then coming back to center. Hug both knees into your chest. Lift the tailbone, reset it down. Rock a little side to side. So anytime if anything is irritating, just be easy, right? You can skip any of the moves you'd like. Let's take the other leg. Step your right foot down, interlock your fingers behind the hamstring, plug your tailbone down, and then inhale to kick up. Exhale to bend. Inhale. Exhale. That's 2. Inhale. Exhaling for 3. Kicking up. Bending for 4. Last one. And down. Cross ankle to the left thigh. Recline figure 4, pressing that thigh away from your chest. Hips doing their best to stay neutral without twisting. Interlocking the knee as an option for that outer hip stretch. And again, self-adjusting to self-engage. Left knee away from chest. Relax your shoulders. And then we'll go ahead, interlock the hands again. This time we're going to point the foot to kick it up as high as you can. Careful not to lift that tail, no cheating, tailbone down. And then from here, we'll lift the shoulders, arms out for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The option is to straighten the leg, lift a little higher. Left hip flexors engaged. You can bend the knee, lie back for a moment to kick it back up and hold. 5, 4. Again, bent knee is totally fine. 3, 2, 1. Straighten it, low boat. Hugging back in, take a gentle twist across the body using a shelf of your right hand. Take left shoulder head down. Thinking as though you could twist your rib cage, that left pectoral opens to stretch. And coming back to center, hug your knees into your chest, taking a happy baby, hands to inside arches or outside of your feet, plug shoulder blades down, plug knees down, rock side to side. So you'll notice the theme here, we're trying to keep our spine neutral. We're not trying to round the hips, we're not trying to overly backbend. We're just creating that natural neutral S curve back into the spine as we stretch. We'll keep that right knee in, step your left foot down, and see if you can take it a little deeper, right knee down to outside of the rib cage for half happy baby. And very gently, just start to kick the foot wide so that we get into those inner thighs. Again, any degree of bend is fine. The key is for you to feel the stretch. If you feel it, you're doing it right. Most likely, anyways. Let's go ahead, re-bend it back in to reset, and switching. Left half happy baby. Left knee plugging down to outside of the rib cage, plugging tailbone down, breathing. Tailbone grounding more important than knee touching or anything else. And then inhale to kick. Starting to straighten that left inner thigh. Again, any degree. Right? It could be here. Hug both knees into your chest. Rock up and down your spine. Come to a tall seat with the legs out. So you're gonna see here, I'm not going to round my spine to lean. I'm going to lift my chest. Think about using your shoulder blades like a row pose, right? Row. You can use a strap, but it's not really necessary here because we're not trying to touch our toes. We're just going to lift our chest, separate the feet hips width apart, and lean. Keeping your chest forward, hinge forward. Bend in the knees, totally fine. We're gonna do about 10 times. We're just starting to move into those hamstrings. If you don't feel it, straighten the legs and keep hinging. All right, good enough. Zip your inner thighs together, squeeze those legs, and we're going to rotate onto our side. So it's a side stretch here. You can stay low, shoulder directly over your elbow, legs in one line. Legs are engaged, elongating out. And I'm not just going to push up. I'm going to think about taking my rib cage out to the side as my legs lengthen out. So I'm just stretching like a rope in opposite directions. If you don't feel it, then go ahead, you can take that hand where the elbow was, and then again, I'm not just pushing up, right? I'm not compressing here. I'm thinking of drawing longer in the side waist, out, so out and then up, like a circle, like a rainbow. You can use that right arm as your barrier so that you keep your hips in one line and suck your belly in. Don't let your gut just hang out. Suck belly in to protect the core to get a deeper stretch. Come to center. You can bend your knees, fingertips can face behind you, wiggle, 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 wiggle the hips, and stretch those shoulder heads. Be easy here, doesn't need to be super deep. Again, you're just trying to get that stretch. So there's a couple of ways to do it. Instead of rounding your spine, chest up. You should feel it quite a bit more. And we'll pivot to the other side. So again, either the elbow, stack your body in one line. Having a mat really helps you with that alignment. And then draw the rib cage out, up and over. If you don't feel it, that hand can replace that elbow. And then again, out, up and over. Navel to spine, literally suck belly in as we do this, but breathe. Coming back to center, taking your time. And if you have a mat at the gym, if you have a towel at the gym, this might be useful, or sometimes you can find these discs. So we're going to go ahead and get into the core a little bit. This one's really nice. So, right hand in front of you, legs in one line. Use your core to lift up. If you don't need your hand, great. Hand to the thigh. Think of that bottom hand so light, it can lift up. Try to keep your legs in one steady line. Repeat as many times as you would like. Eventually, we'll come on back to our elbow, push elbow down, and lift the hips up. So over here, we're lifting this bottom hip up so high, thinking that foot can one day step down to the floor. Turn. Wrap the right arm underneath, and then open. 5 times. You can look down for balance. Challenge your balance by looking up. Keep your hip lifted. And lower. So we'll go ahead and switch to the other side. Stack the body in one line, arm out, hand can be down to support, lift up. Left arm can be on the thigh for less support, lift up. As many times as you did it on the other side, good to keep track. You're gonna see that this top leg even slides out, that's okay. All right, when we're ready, forearm plank on the side waist, lifting it up. For those adding on, torsional side plank. Keep your hips lifted at least 5 times. Lower down and turn to your belly. So my husband calls this gecko. In the yoga world, we call it sphinx. Call it whatever you'd like. Think of your legs initially can be hips width apart or wider if you're tight, but it's really about tractioning your chest. So it's not just hanging out here like you would watching TV, eating mac and cheese, but it's really about pulling like you're doing a row again. Elbows back to pull that chest forward. And here between your shoulder blades, it's working. It's squeezing to pull the tips of your shoulder blades forward into your chest. So we're tractioning the spine by creating more space in the upper body forward. And your legs, you want to think about letting them be heavy and lengthen back. Notice if your butt is clenching and if your thighs are rotating back. Keep your femurs neutral. And what that means is you want to think about not rotating your femur bones one way or the other. Your heels are a great indicator. Look back at your heels. Have them pointing straight up. All right, lower down and go ahead and just take a little rest. And that concludes part 1, which is all the floor work for warming up. I'm going to move us into part number 2, where we'll get deeper into the hips. For the second part, you're going to want a bench handy. Feel free to towel it up if you are at a gym. If you have a couch, that works just as well. We're going to take our elbows no wider than shoulder width apart. So you can go ahead and hug to the outer edge of your elbows. That's good measure. Interlock your hands, and we're going to think about pushing our elbows away from us so that we're creating more length in our shoulder girdle. Breathe in, and then exhale, we're going to allow the forehead to come down to the bench, and we're just going to open those shoulders. You can take it up a notch by straightening the arms so you can reset. Hug those elbows close together. Again, shoulder girdle extending and then melting. This one's particularly nice for anyone who spends long hours on their phone or has hunched shoulders, lifts a lot of weight on the computer. Really everyone. Taking it up another notch, go ahead and start with your fingers to your upper back and then melt down. So that will really start to open up the triceps. Avoid letting your elbows slide wide. So we do want a nice hug in with those elbows, your biceps close to your ears. Push your elbows to round yourself back up. Slide your hands to the edge of your bench and step your right knee forward. So now we're in a nice lunge. We're going to widen that lunge, take the right knee out wider and lengthen your stance until you feel it in the outer right hip and your back front thigh. This one is the lizard lunge. A few things to note here. Notice if your hips are twisting. Notice if you're kind of rounding your spine and gripping forward. Do your best to find some ease. So that might mean backing out of it a little bit, not going so deep. Maintaining a long neutral spine and allowing your left thigh to release. Your right knee is outside of your right rib cage, so it's on the wider side. We're going to go ahead and squeeze those hips together and back up your hips. Now, if you have a bench, it's really nice because you can scoot that foot underneath and you've got some support with the bench. So we're now in a half split. Having your foot a little wider makes it a little easier on the hamstring. Instead of rounding your spine, neutral spine, draw the tailbone back, pull your chest forward, and be easy, right? Soft bend in the knee is fine. The telltale is your face expression. Are you gripping? Are you clenching? Find a place where you can, it's challenging, but you can also relax. Okay, we're going to revisit that in a little bit, but for now, go ahead, use that bench. It's a really good benchmark. We're going to point that right foot as best as you can, lift your leg up to the top of the bench. We're using the bench so that we don't round our spine and cheat, keeping your spine nice and tall. Re-bend the knee. Step up and step your foot back. I'm going to go ahead and take this modified down dog. So however far from the bench feels good for you. If you have a wall behind your bench or you're sure that that bench won't move, you can really take it nice and long, right? Now there's a few ways to do this. You can drop the shoulders, but for this one, go ahead. Make sure you're in one straight V, not a curved cursive V, but a strong V. Bend in the knees is great. Think of tailbone being drawn back. If you're here, that's also okay. The key is long spine, strong V to your thighs. This bend, that's not part of the V. Don't worry about it. All right, let's take the other side. So we're gonna go ahead and step your left foot forward now. Allow that back knee to tap down into your lizard lunge. Finding your lizard. If you can maintain a long spine, you can also start to take your chest lower down to the floor. Although that's not necessary, as long as you're feeling the stretch. When you're ready, squeeze and integrate your hips, back up the hips, and wiggle your foot, or you can pull your bench closer, whichever is easier, for that half split, pulling chest forward and hinging. Again, noticing if your hips are twisting. Simple way is just look at your hips. Are they in one straight line? And then from there, move into the pose. Coming back to your hands, slide that foot in. We're using this bench to keep a long spine. Lift your leg to the top of the bench. Holding for 3, for 2, 1. Go ahead and step it back. Step both feet up. Take it closer to your bench. Bend your knees as much as you need to take your forearms down to the bench. So we're kind of like touching our toes here. Once your forearms are connected, once your rib cage is to your thighs, let yourself start to straighten your legs. And if you need to walk your feet back, you can go ahead and do so. So again, I'm not trying to touch my toes like this in a round where I could have a big beach ball here. I'm really closing the connection, rib cage to thighs, and tilting, I'm hinging to lift my hips up. Coming back, we're going to stand up, step your right foot to the bench, wiggle, 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 right foot to the left side of the bench, and take your knee down. So this is a modified pigeon pose with your bench. The hands will come in front of the shin, and you are in control here for how low you go. You can tap that bottom knee down if that feels good. And again, your heel can come closer if you feel quite a bit. Eventually, it will become more open. For some of you, you can walk that back knee back for quite an intense stretch. This really will get into your outer hip. You're going to use the left hand directly in front of the foot so that the body doesn't twist, right? This is usually the tendency. Well, now we've lifted it up. We want to keep ourselves nice and straight. You can come on down to your forearms if the spine can maintain long. And allow your outer hip to release. Honestly, I love pigeons and I could stay here forever, but for those who are ready to move on, you'll come back just the way you came in, stepping back up, and we're revisiting that half split again. So go ahead, flex your feet, hinge your hips, the hands above your knee, engage your quad and point the toes. So using your hands to engage that quad, pull your hips back. Coming back, hip flexor engagement, lift. Holding 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That right foot steps down, hands to the bench, step left foot back. This is a modified pyramid pose with the bench. Hips back, look to your hip line, keep your hips in one straight line, and hinge. That same feeling how you pushed into the big toe when the foot was up here, do it on the floor. Push and point your toe, engage your quad. I feel it. All right, coming back, we'll widen our feet. Wide, wide, wide. You can use that bench for balance. You don't have to go all the way. 90 degrees is great. We're working into those inner thighs. Our toes are out, heels in, or you can eventually take it all the way down and use this bench to help you lift your chest rather than round. Chest up. No sneagle. Chest up. Hips lift up halfway. Straighten all the way up. This is a medium-legged forward fold. Forearms to your bench. Hinge and fold. We're almost there, you guys. Let's take it to the last side. Left foot to the upper right corner of your bench. And knee comes down. Taking your time to make your way down. If there's any tension coming down this way, you can also start with your knee down and lift your knee in and then take it up as well. Okay? Not forcing or pulling anything, but going to where your body allows you to go. You can also readjust here. You see how I've lifted my bottom knee, wiggle, 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 and readjusting down, using my right arm to keep myself square. Left hand can even add a little self-assist for more alignment, although this might be more than enough for you. I am losing daylight, so stay here as long as you like. We're going to come up again, stepping your foot back to the middle, kind of like you're tying your shoe, and we're going to straighten the leg. Hands on top of the quads, hips back, quads engaged, and stretch. Stand all the way up. Strong hip flexors, lifting for 5. A little extra on this side. 4, 3, 2, 1. Your left foot will come on down. Hands to the bench and looking to your hip line for straight. Engage your left quad. Pyramid modified. So we've got sphinx, we've got lizards, or as my husband likes to add in his own animals, geckos, and we've got pyramids. All right, you guys, allow yourself to come take a rest. And that concludes our little sequence designed to overall make you feel hopefully better. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, save, share. I don't even know the whole gist, but whatever you feel like doing. And if you have any questions, always feel free to share below. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful day.